George once told me he was always nervous before going on stage, but I'm sure he's not as nervous as I am this moment on this stage before so many people. Anyway, it brings me fond memories standing here because it was about 40 years ago that I was on this stage. I was a novice journalist, and I had this big Opry star taking me around, telling me stories about the Opry, meeting other artists. His name was George Hamilton IV. I was completely overwhelmed because I hardly knew him at that time, and yet he was giving me time and talking to me. He was that sort of person who would give time to other people. As you know, George was very proud to be a member of the Opry. He was also very proud of making Britain his second home. He came here a lot of times. In fact, it all began for him when he appeared on the International Festival of Country Music. That's when a BBC producer called Phil Lewis spotted him and said, "Who is that gentleman in the pinstripe suit?" Because he was unaware of him. Anyway, he said, "I'd like to offer him a TV show," which he did. He ended up doing a series which worked very well, and he ended up with 4 more series after that, plus a lot of radio work and, of course, a lot of touring. And, of course, many tours continued right up until his passing, where he combined country music and gospel music with equal ease, and he appealed to all sorts of audiences. He also found fame in Europe, in particular in the early 70s, when he first went to Prague and Moscow, and being the first country music act to appear there. And Billboard named him the international ambassador of country music. Excuse me, I'm stumbling over my words. Anyway, he was very proud to make Britain his home, the second home, and he went out of his way to help a lot of British acts there as well, offering them advice, sometimes going on tour, offering them tour places on TV and radio shows, sometimes even recording with them. Some of you here may be familiar with some of these artists, as they did work with other American acts as well. To name a few, the Hillsiders, the Johnny Young Four, John Derrick and Country Fever, Raymond Froggatt, Pete Sayers, who worked in Nashville for quite a while, Charlie Lansbury and Daniel O'Donnell, who does quite a lot of work here now. I find it really difficult to believe that he's no longer with us. He was always the hardest of workers and had a non-stop schedule. And he was about to return to Britain next month to resume the Patsy Cline music tour with an Irish artist called Sandy Kelly. This was one of the most popular music shows in recent years. I think it held the record for the longest touring show. Anyway, he was always giving his time to people. In particular, besides this forthcoming tour, he was always going to present in a charity concert in Cornwall, but unfortunately that never happened, and just shows another instance of him giving time for good causes. I'm very proud to have worked with him and have him as a friend. We worked together on a number of projects, one of them being arranging a reception for George at the US Ambassador's residency in London. That was Robert Tuttle in 2008. He also did a concert in Knebworth House, which is a big stately home where I live in my village. Many people may have not known him personally, but he possessed that rare and skill in making audiences feel that he was their friend. His gentle image was exactly the same in real life as he was on stage, as I'm sure you all know. He was truly an international ambassador, and many in Nashville should be grateful for him for spreading the country music word around. From all of us across the Atlantic, many thanks for the friendships and for wonderful entertainment. Rest in peace, George.